you're in for a rare treat. This is our great friend, Lippert. He's a great friend of youth rugby here in Wisconsin, and we're really proud he's here.
Yeah, that'll.
So, any of you were at my first presentation in the morning about the backline, we're going to have a similarly boring and stale PowerPoint. So, initial apologies. I will augment it a little bit with this because when we start talking attacking and defensive shape, and when we start talking restarts in particular, we'll use the whiteboard a little bit. If you don't know me, I'm from Central Wisconsin. I grew up outside a little town called Pittsville, kind of between Marshfield and Wisconsin Rapids. I've been really blessed to be coaching full time for about the last 10 years. So I feel really blessed that I get to do this and help develop rugby players as my profession. We're going to use the same quote because this is applicable. So if you're my first one, it matters. I was at this All-Star event. I was talking to someone I think is definitely one of the top 20 sevens coaches in the world. He coaches internationally. Someone asked him, what is the best coaching advice you've ever gone? And he, in slightly less politically correct terms, said, you gotta pee with the genitals you got. Okay? We need to fit. You can't force a system that doesn't work with your personnel. We always have to be aware of what we're working with, and the best way to be successful is to fit a style of play towards the personnel resources that we have. So, I would say, think of what's your philosophy and what's your goals. If you know you have not a very talented team, your goals might be simple. It might be to win a couple games. It might be to hook these kids on rugby. It might be to make sure they have fun. I ask two things. One, rugby needs to be safe because it is, or as safe as possible. It's a dangerous sport. Anything we can do to make sure we're doing something dangerous as safely as possible is important. After that, do what you can to make it fun. Because kids keep playing rugby, especially those of you at the flag rugby level, at the high school level. Kids get hooked because they enjoy it. So maybe you have a session that sucks, or we need to have hard conversations, or put in hard yards that aren't fun. But as things accumulate, keep it fun, because that's how people are going to keep coming back, especially young people. Our goals and maybe our philosophy with how we approach things should be different if we're looking at the season as a whole versus an individual sevens tournament versus this one game we're about to play, or even down to this half, or even this possession coming off of this set piece. So the goals and what we're looking to accomplish should definitely be different. We all want to win, but if our goals don't change with what we're fitting them to, season, tournament, month, individual game, individual player goals, what we want to get out of players, we're not being flexible as a coach, and we're not giving the best we can back to our players. So facilitating growth and success should be priorities. How do you define success for the season, tournament, match, okay? And then just a general thing, you can't be too fit in sevens. Spending time just doing interval sprinting, if we can get a ball involved, like a lot of hands at pace stuff, a lot of defensive shape, working back and forth, you're not going to waste time if we're being fit. If we can teach and improve rugby skills and improve team cohesiveness while we're getting fitter, that's great. But you're not going to hurt your team's chances by making sure we're as fit as possible. Interval sprinting, it's basically what sevens is. It's interval sprints with some collisions involved. All right? Ground fitness. At the international level, a lot of teams do a lot of up-downs and get up, sprint 10 meters, get up, sprint 10 meters, over and over again. If you can train your players to quickly get away from that contact point, get off the ground, and then move to the next position they need to be, that minimizing time on the ground, that's going to be really, really help your results in making sure we stay linked both in attack and defense. Contact fitness. We can sprint all day, but if we don't have that readiness for contact, one, there might be a safety issue. Two, it's a very different energy system, fitness in a ruck, or driving my legs through contact, or driving my legs through a tackle, versus sprinting 50 meters. So having some readiness for contact and contact fitness is important. And then mental fitness. It's one thing to play an 80-minute game and try and get the best result. Trying to manage a team mentally and physically over the course of a season, over the course of one tournament, the results are important. That requires some planning, and it takes some emotional intelligence and awareness. And knowing where your team is at from a mental perspective really going to help you. One of the best things a coach can have, I believe, is emotional intelligence. And being able to see, hey, Billy needs a pat on the butt. Billy needs an arm around his shoulders. Some players love getting yelled at. Some players want things explained and want confrontation to be a personal one-on-one conversation. Emotional intelligence and knowing what you need to do to get the best out of both your team and the individuals within it is really important to your success. So key skill sets for sevens. Pass catch it at pace. It's in all caps because you have at pace. If we can't do it full speed, we're going to struggle. I have guys I've played with, guys I've coached at the international level now, and the thing they say that shocked them was how much in an international camp they work on just hands, just pass catch, and being able to pass catch as fast as possible while sprinting. That's another thing that we can pair with fitness that you really can't overdo it. If the USA and Fijian sevens teams are working at hands at pace every day, it's probably good enough for your high school team. One-on-one tackling ability, both closing the space, staying linked with the players either side of me, but then closing the space and winning that one-on-one and making a successful tackle and finishing those tackles. The vast majority of contact points in sevens are one-on-ones. All right, so we've got to be able to be successful in those one-on-one situations. Drop kicking, not so important in 15s for the most part. All right, incredibly critical in sevens. 2 points matters. Okay, so also having our players being willing to chase that breakaway into the corner and save those 2 points, big deal. Being able to slot our easy conversions, maybe make some of them up towards the 15s, really matters. And also being able to get a restart that's contestable and maybe we can score, get the ball back, score again, start your possession. Drop kicking in sevens, being able to put a ball to a spot or put it through the sticks, super important. A lot of sevens games come down to conversions essentially. And so making those or winning your own restart is going to really set you up to be successful. Another one is set pieces. So at a 15s level, unless there's a big mismatch, set pieces are often usually the team putting it in, especially scrums, but even lineouts too. The team who's throw or who's putting it in the scrum, oftentimes they're in a position where they're going to win their own. I find that sevens too often, we think of set pieces as an afterthought, when in actuality, a lot more set pieces get turned over, especially scrums, in sevens. So prioritizing your restarts and your set pieces are actually a big deal. It's the best that you in most cases, as long as you've got some strength in one of your props, the best opportunity to turn a ball over is not in loose play at the ruck. It's at a restart or it's to win their scrums. So actually prioritizing set pieces, I would really recommend. They are too often an afterthought at the sevens level, and if you're dynamite at them, you always win yours, and you disrupt and steal the oppositions, you're going to be successful. Support, that's attack and defense. Are we linked up with the players either side of us? Are we communicating? Are we supporting and making good decisions as far as getting to that ruck, filling the scrum half roll, moving the ball, helping my next defender, all these things, which also plays into decision making and teamwork. All right, if we can't play together, it's going to be a struggle. Barry Baker can score breakaway tries. Sometimes he gets caught. Somebody needs to see that cover tackle gets made. Our support better be good. We better make good decisions as far as getting to that breakdown and then moving that ball away. No rugby players and island unto themselves. And then for those of you at the high school level, probably don't need to prioritize that. For those of you coaching players that have aspirations, maybe a really good high school team or a college team, if you can get your players to execute one, like single lifts, lifting with one person, both in the line out and at restarts, you're gonna see an outsized benefit from that. Because if my line out, if I can have two players execute, one jump, one lift, that gives me flexibility with a third player in the line out. That allows me to cover, or defensively, I can contest in the middle or up front, and I can make sure my third player is covering the back. Okay, so as a next level skill, being able to execute a one player lift, big deal. It does take a while to coach it up. It's not something that most players are going to figure out in a single session. It's something that they've got to do 10 minutes every session for a month maybe. And there's a timing element to it. It's kind of like dancing. All right, so physical attributes. Speed, all caps, because we all know sevens, speed kills. Agility, all right? Being able to actually make that player miss, change directions quickly, agility, very important. Strength. We're going to get into roles. It's really useful to have at least one player. Like, ideally, everyone's going to be fast, agile, strong. But to have one player who can be a bully is actually really helpful. Strength matters, and that goes in with size as well. A big, scary Danny Barrett, sort of a ball carrier, or someone who makes positive tackles consistently on defense, is really going to help. And then lastly, that hand-eye coordination and hand-foot coordination. So that pass catch, those drop kicks that are really important. Everyone needs a hand-eye. As long as you got one person on the field at all times who's got the hand-foot, those are really, really important skills. All right, so roles. As you see, individual players, hopefully most players are gonna be able to fill two of these. It wouldn't be great if everyone could do all these, because then there's no balance on the team. So we want one finisher for sure on the field. Fastest player, someone who can take an offload, who we can swing it to, and they can beat someone one-on-one with sheer pace. It's great if we have two. If we got 7 people with pace, who's going to set the plays up? Now maybe they all have pace, but someone needs to draw defenders, needs to make simple decisions. Drop kicker, next most very important one. One on the field. Hopefully in a roster of 12, we got 2-3 players. I would say as you're looking to build players like over multiple seasons, that, skinny little freshman who doesn't have a place right now, we can get them to really embrace learning how to drop kick and put the ball where they want it to go and put it through the sticks. That's a good way to keep a kid motivated, keep them engaged, and give them a development pathway so as they grow into their body, they've got an option and they can be a big contributor. Playmaker. All right? If everyone's a playmaker, who's going to finish? Who's going to be our physical enforcer? All right? 1 to 3. 2 playmakers on the field, really nice. A lot of times in that fly half center, but in sevens, 1 forward who's a playmaker, really good. Workhorse. All right? So I think a great example of this, Steve Tomasini from the USA team. He's just a grinder. He's pretty fast. He's physical, but not huge. But the dude's got a motor, and you know what? He can also kick. So that's that grinder. That's the person who's their work rate just is nonstop. Hammer, that's the big person, especially on the edge. One hard phase that you know is always going to go forward, or one person who you know in close quarters almost always win that physical battle in the tackle. Having a hammer, maybe 2, really useful. If you got a team full of hammers, maybe focus on pick and goes and hit ups or something. Always be sending or coordinating your strategy. We want to, again, fit our strategy to our personnel. These are ideals. If you lack some of these in your team, that's good honesty as a coach. Try and develop them, but then also adjust my style of play accordingly based on the tools I'm working with. And then aerial. Maybe less so if you don't have a drop goal. If you don't have someone who can drop kick, a little less important. If you got someone who can put a contestable ball up consistently, having 2 or even 3 players, so we know I can kick there or there, and both of those players could go up and contest that one-on-one ball. That aerial role, hugely important, okay? Especially if we want to spread the field out with our restart. So again, outsized importance of these restarts. When the USA a couple years ago, when they were right near the top of the World Series, the USA men, they were winning 50% of their own restarts, okay? The teams that get restarts and that win their own, outsized importance. They're going to keep the ball. We're going to score. We're going to kick back off. We're going to get that ball right back. All right? It's really difficult for the opposition to score. So spread, or I would call a light formation, versus a heavy or a focused attack. So this is, we put 5, 6 on one side. That's our heavy. We know where we're kicking probably. Spread it out, 3 and 3. Where's the weak link? Where are they not covering? So if we want to draw this out, here's our center, kicker. I'd probably put my aerial person either on the far edge or right here, playmaker or grinder. I'd put, in a perfect world, I'd have 3 aerials. Then we go here, and then we can pick our spots. Spread the field, don't give them anything. And if I've got a really good kicker, personally, I would rather spread the field, let that kicker pick their spot. Oh, there's a hole here, okay? Put it there, okay? Or, hey, there's their short, unathletic player who can't jump. Okay, let's put the ball up. Let's have our aerial player go. Let's win that ball in the air, all right? Versus a focused attack. So if I'm limited, a lot of teams will go like a 5-1. I would rather go heavy if I know I've got one aerial player. If one person is really good at competing, but nobody else is, okay, let's go. Kicker, let's put that aerial around the 15 channel. Let's give another player to clean up. Get another player to clean up. Let's go, let's put a grinder here. Let's put our speed on the backside, speed finisher. We can go 5. Some teams will even go 6. If we know we're kicking here, it's going to be difficult. At bare minimum, even if they have great skills, that's 2 passes. Okay? We can always put a focused attack here, and then we'll give them that. We'll take the time. Maybe we'll give some space in defense if they win it. But that's a personnel thing again. If I've got a great kicker, personally, I would rather go spread it out and let that kicker make a good decision and put the ball where we know they can. If I'm limited in the aerial, or I've only got, or my kicker's kind of maybe we focus our attack a little more. We're going to show you where we're probably, and then let's attack that ball well and set up a good platform from a first phase and make you spin the ball if you're going to be successful. Again, awareness and personnel driven, and restarts are a great opportunity for attack. If you have the time, spending time on restarts, and you have the personnel, it's going to pay outsized dividends. The other one, like I said, set pieces. What's the question for y'all? If it's an offensive set piece after safety, what is the next most important thing? Somebody.
Communication.
Communication. Important, I'd say for rugby broadly, absolutely. For specific to that set piece that we're about to, the lineout we're about to throw, or the scrum we're about to put in. What's that? Exactly. Boom, winning it. We got the ball, we're putting it in. So the most important thing I can do is win that set piece. It starts with my ball, actually securing that set piece. Personally, my philosophy of set pieces and sevens is very different if it's our feed or our throw versus yours. If it's mine, we just need to be real solid and win it and get a platform to attack from. If it's yours, I want to be max disruptive, and I want to try and contest that ball at bare minimum, give you a messy ball or not the greatest platform to attack from. And ideally, I want to steal your ball. So usually a scrum is anchored at the tight end, the right hand side of the scrum. If it's our feed, my tight end, I don't, unless I know we're dominating, I don't even want you to pick your feet up. I want you to sink. I want you, the ball moves behind, and we've got a good platform. All right? Body height wins at scrums. Body height is usually going to show you who's going to be successful. And again, are we trying to win it and platform, or am I being disruptive? Try and flip the focus for offensive versus defensive set pieces. Very much, hey, win it, platform, yours, steal it, disrupt it, messy ball. Anything I can do to get you off your game or make your stuff messy. Basic awareness. Now this should be rugby in general. It's a communication thing too. If we're aware and we communicate, there's always opportunities out there. I love it. You love seeing like a line out that comes up and they just pod, or a defensive line out and they just pod the front and they got a 3. Okay, so if all 3 of you are up front lifting, I just need my back player to just go ahead. We're off to the races. It's always interesting. Don't coach your players to know the skills, but also coach them to look, say, oh, you're not there. That's where we're throwing. That's where we're going. Don't overcomplicate it with this is the play. Know what the play is, know the right way to execute the skill, have a call for it, but coach up decision making, at least with enough of your players, maybe not all of them, maybe not the brand new kid, all right? Enough of it, we can look at something and say, oh, that's obvious, that's open, all right? Or that's their only jumper. Let's just follow them and disrupt it and not give away the easy throw, the easy throw to the tall kid or the over the top throw. So basic awareness at the line out in general, but at the line out in particular, like just don't give them something really obvious. Again, secure it, get a platform, disrupt it, steal. So attacking systems, again, personnel driven. What do we have? Let's focus on that. Opportunistic. Ideally, our playmakers, our veteran players, the players with really good field vision and decision making, they're going to look for those opportunities, communicate them, and then in small groups we execute. So I would say that the international sevens game seems to have moved towards a more direct and confrontational style. You don't see very much, like ball goes to the sideline, they go to a pocket, they swing it back. Like a lot of times it's one, maybe two passes and there's contact. It's a lot flatter, it's more contact and physical confrontation, and generally there's a lot less passes between each ruck, each tackle, each thing like that. For you, those of you at the lower levels of the game, if you got more hammers than finishers, maybe you need to keep it simple and just run lines and win our ruck ball and start the other team with possession and be opportunistic. All right? If we have the ball skills and the speed, being expansive and evasive, with more ball movement, more passes, generally avoiding contact, going to be helpful. So I've always found the most important player, this does not erase well, the most important player to give us as many attacking options as possible is the second pass, or the second receiver. So let's call this a ruck. In sevens, we're usually going to have three players. There's a player who got tackled, there's the rucker, we need to win those one-on-ones, and then we've got the scrum half. So we've got our first receiver, fly half, whatever. This next player is the player who needs to be deep. That second player off at a 45 or better is going to give us options. Okay? Everyone from here on out, your winger doesn't need extreme depth because they're just going to be running back and forth and wasting energy, and they're always going to be catching up to the play. Everyone from here on out can be pretty flat-ish because if they just hold their line, depth just happens. Okay? They just chill, wait till the person ahead of them gets going, and then we just play and the depth will be there. If this player doesn't have depth, we can't do anything. Personally, other than there's situations where we want to go straight back or deeper, I want this first receiver in a position where this defender can't get there. So I want them wide enough that they keep an overlap, so that the defender who's marking them at the ruck has to stay with them. Okay, so if we're way deep, if this first receiver's back here, all right, this pass goes, this defender can go from right here, so they can push, and we all push out, and now it's one-on-ones the whole way across the field. We're marked up. If your first receiver like prioritizes width and just enough depth to be able to execute a good pass catch, we probably got good attack. If this player isn't deep enough, it's going to die right here or right here. All right. So working on getting depth at that second receiver, I'm a big fan of. And a thing we can do with our players to coach that up is we throw a pass and we immediately sprint after that. Like my hands, where I point my hands is where the ball's going. All right. So finishing with an actual follow through with my hands at my target, and then I'm just imprinted. I take 3-4 sprint steps because then I'm going to end up where I need to be for whatever happens next. Player that moves the ball, with the exception of maybe a wing. If we know it's going all the way to the next sideline, maybe we can fade back. 90% of the time, finish with my follow through, sprint right after it, and I'm going to be in the spot, the next spot I need to be in support. Any questions on kind of these two styles? So usually with that direct and confrontational, we usually, like our attack, we'll pick and go, a lot of first receiver hit-ups. Maybe the second receiver does flatten up a little, but we're looking to generate contact really in these first 2 to 3 channels at the most. All right, with that expansive, evasive, again, more speed, more passing ability, maybe a little smaller. Maybe we have only one hammer or no hammers. All right, but we got quick little kids who can move the ball. With that, more depth. We're looking to go sideline to sideline. And if we can swing the ball sideline to sideline twice, by that third one, even good teams are going to start to come apart, and then we can run lines and just take gaps. Any questions on that? Yep.
So what do you think is the correct depth?
I would tell you, it always depends on the picture in front of you. I would say that second receiver is at least 45, 50, 60 degrees even. I would tell you a first receiver in loose play, I would rather they be like at a 30-degree angle, and then out from that second receiver, they don't need to be deep again. Because if we get our timing right, like the depth is generated by that second player. And just by me holding my line, just wait an extra second. All right, cool. Now I'm coming from depth. The line speed of the player in front of me generates my depth.
You mentioned pick and go. Other than like right at the try line, what scenario would be best utilized for pick and go?
I got a hammer at the scrum half position, and I got their nerdy little door. It's personnel driven again. Yeah, if I got Danny Barrett in the scrum half position, and I got a little dude standing there, cool. Let's generate some confrontation. If I think I can really, are they leaving a gap? If there's a gap there, absolutely. Always play the picture in front of you. But the other one is that personnel matchup good? Or is it Jerry Tuai against Danny Barrett? Okay, same thing. Do I have enough space on that pick and go to manipulate him one-on-one? Probably another situation. But I would say it's generally personnel driven. You've got the field position aspect to it. Yep, 5 meter line. Let's just go. Let's support that player. Keep the ball. We'll get there. But anytime there's an obvious gap, cool. You see the gap, go for it. Back yourself, make the decision, go. Or there's a personnel mismatch. All right, that could be a little dude who's got a big guy isolated, or it could be a big guy who's got a little guy isolated. It has to be well supported, because if that player wins the one-on-one defensively and we're not supported, if that rucker doesn't transition well to support that next phase, we're in trouble. We lose the ball. Any more questions on that? All right, so defensive systems. Does anyone not play an inside-out defense? The slide, a push? Anyone? Okay, generally most of us in sevens, we're going to use the sideline as an extra defender. We're going to line up to the inside of their inside shoulder, and help is going to come from the inside. All right? Does anyone not know what I'm talking about when I say an inside-out defender? All right, the big key here is going to be that inside communication. So just like attacking-wise, I want this first receiver wide enough that this defender can't push. Like, if that first receiver runs a straight line, he's going to beat that one. This defender's got a hold on him. Similar to that, like as a defender, as soon as if we're matched up, we're good. Let's just keep length. Let's keep some structural integrity to our line. Let's move up as a unit, make our one-on-ones. In a lot of cases, there's an overlap. The last person we're really worried about is the furthest person from the ball, because it takes time to get there. The communication has to come from that inside, and I, as the next defender, my job's not done until that ball's at least 2 passes away. Because my player passes the ball, and we've got an overlap. If I know with certainty I can get to that next player who's got the ball, I'm going to tell that defender to push. All right, and then we've always got the sideline there to help us on the edge. Single sweeper, double sweeper. I would imagine most of us play single sweeper. Does anyone play with a double sweeper? Okay, cool. So that would just be my edge, my sideline player, like ruck on the sideline. That last defender, they just automatically fade to sweeper. Okay? And that usually means that kind of both of our edges we play soft. I would say generally a single sweeper, it's simpler, keep there. If you were in my first talk on backs, I'm going to shade in sevens as well. I want my sweeper, I'd rather they shade to be aggressive and closer to the line than be 15, 20, 30 meters back. Maybe if the opposition is buried in their own try zone and we expect that they're just going to kick it. That's probably the only time where I want my sweeper really way back there. That sweeper needs to be close enough that they can fill right in the line and push everyone else out, because there's a problem, there's a gap, there's a problem. And they don't need to be in a position, there's not lots of territorial kicking in sevens. They just need to win the race to the ball. So a lot of times I'm going to sweep my scrum half, because off of set pieces they can fade to that sweeper spot and they can just be the second level of that defensive line. But I'm going to shade to them being close, because at 3 to 5 meters they can fill quickly in about 2 steps, but they can also dink over the top, kick to the corner. They can just win the race to the ball. They don't need to field it cleanly and take a bunch of steps and reverse the ball most of the time. They just need to win the race to that ball, and it's more important that they're there to fill a spot or clean up a line break than it is for them to be ready for territorial kicking. All right, rush and blitz. We can't let them go edge to edge. Okay, that's the main thing. I would say blitzing or rushing is something we want to use tactically because we're under-resourced and we want to kill their attack. There are some teams that can use it successfully as a main defensive system, but it's only going to work if we can't let them move the ball. We've got to kill it at that second pass, really. Okay, we've got to be super aggressive. We've got to be really clear about what it is. Generally, that blitzing or using a rush is going to be because we're under-resourced and we're trying to close the door on them and just not let them move the ball the next link in the chain. Does anyone have questions on that? Okay. Related to that blitz, when is the time, ball in hand versus ball in the air, when is the time to close that vertical space, that go forward space defensively?
Ball in there.
Both. We should always be moving up. However, one of them, we're like very certain where it's going versus one. There's a lot more unknown in one of them. Ball in the air versus ball in the hand. Anyone? While the ball's in the air, it's going where it's going. So that's the time to take the vertical space. As soon as it's in someone's hand, okay, he can make a decision. He can just beat the player one-on-one. He can move it on to the next one. He can kick it down. There's a lot more unknown in it. As the ball is in the air, especially those long skip passes, that's the time to usually take the vertical space. Or if we see a big overlap, that's the time to push early and then get to our one-on-one situation. So ball in the air, that ball's going where it's going. As soon as it's in a player's hand, a good player has a lot of options as soon as it's in hand. All right? The time to take the vertical space or make that early aggressive decision is when that long pass is in the air. Personnel management. So this is a big one, especially when it comes to tournaments. A lot of sevens tournaments are 5, maybe 6 games. This is both physical and mental. All right? That 10th, 11th, 12th player on the roster is actually really important. Keeping them engaged. They might not play in those first 2 pool matches, but making sure they're engaged, they understand their role. Maybe we take some of the workload off of our stud finishers in that 3rd pool match, or we know, hey, if we know we're one of the best teams in the pool, we're 2-0, we got one more pool game against the 0-2 team, that's probably a time to save some of my stud players' legs. That doesn't mean we take the opponent lightly. That means we manage ourselves physically. That means we give that player that opportunity in the game when we think, hey, if we think they're a little overmatched, this is the game where the others around them can compensate. So managing our players physically and mentally, what are priorities and our KPIs? Priorities might just be having fun, being safe, getting experience. Maybe we know we're not very good, and hey, maybe we win 1 or 2 games. All right? What's the priority? Is it player development? Is it win at all costs? Is it fun? Hopefully safety's number 1. And then they should be different from a full season versus individual tournaments. The individual tournament one, I found really successful, especially like the multi-day ones. You go back to a hotel, your air conditioning. Having players walking around on their feet in the sun is really stupid. It's a really good way to accumulate fatigue. And it's not, they think, oh, we just played 1 game, we're good. Like, I'm seeing my friends. No. That's going to bite you in the butt on day 2 in your 4th, 5th, 6th game. Oh, you know that breakaway that you just couldn't, you tapped his ankle and you got it? Yeah, that was because you were screwing around, walking around on your feet in the sun day 1. So getting players off of their feet, in the shade, elevating feet up against walls, mandatory X amount of water, mandatory fruit, food, whatever, really important. If you can standardize those, or especially those of you who are head coaches, if you can get an assistant or a manager or something that, hey, your job is to make sure I'm going to say it, and then you make sure, because there's always going to be a couple of them that don't want to listen, you make sure everyone has at least half a granola bar, 1 bottle of water, and they put their feet up for 5 minutes. That might not pay dividends from game 1 to game 2. Those things, those personnel, physical management, managing accumulated fatigue, is going to pay off hugely in those semifinals, finals, those last matches of the tournament. And then always keep player development at it. Now, if this is a national tournament, if we need to win this game to advance, okay, maybe our priority is winning this game. All right, put the best players in the field, fill the roles, go for the result. Maybe we know we're not going to win this tournament. Maybe this is a meaningless game. Maybe the point of it is to get that freshman and sophomore some opportunities. The kid who's been grinding, to give him a little bit of a reward. Yeah, they're our 12th best player, but they show up, they got a great attitude, and 2 years from now we're going to need them. Okay, maybe now is the time that we reward them. We talk to them before the game. Hey, I want you to do this, this, and this. Knowing what we're coaching for, what our results and priorities are, and then coaching in the direction of those goals, those KPIs, Really important. Any questions on personnel management? Every time I've been successful at sevens, we nailed that, like controlling the controllable, as far as accumulated fatigue, as far as every team I've had that's overachieved or like achieved like goals of winning big things, we nailed it on managing ourselves mentally, physically, and just having and minimizing distractions. Oh, game's over, we don't play for 4 hours, cool. Hotel, air conditioning. Mandatory, this food, this amount of food, this whatever. Every time I've had a team underachieve, where we expected more than what we ended up with, there was somewhere we slipped up in the managing physical fatigue, something about our mental game was off, something about the dynamic in the team was off. So managing physically and mentally from game to game, half to half, tournament to tournament, season to season, really important. Like minimize, control the controllable there. All right, that's all I got. We've got some more time, so if you have specific questions, please ask them. But again, rugby's dangerous, prioritize safety, and make sure your players know that. After that, beyond like, hey, maybe this next important game, like prioritize fun, especially those of you coaching at the youth level. Like you're the ones who are seeding this game for the future. And if the USA's men's team is ever going to be any good, our women's team is half decent. Our men's sevens team sometimes good. Our men's 15s team is kind of a sad, sick joke sometimes. If we're going to get to the next level as a rugby playing country, it's on y'all to make sure kids have fun. Because that's what's going to keep them hooked. That's what's going to get them to bring their next friend who's talented to rugby, and that's going to help us advance as groups and as individuals. So know your strengths, play them. Thank you, appreciate it. Yep.
You talked about restarts there, but didn't talk about receiving setup.
Oh, good, thank you. Yep. Where's my terrible eraser go?
Right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good point. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to say that is going to be 100%, for me at least, that's going to be driven by what they're showing me. If they're at the level I'm at now and like have been for the past couple years, I'm going to have players who can execute a one-player lift. And if they show me that they're going to go, they've got 5 players on this side of the kicker, and they got 1 here. I'm going to make sure I got someone speedy over here who can cover the edge if they try something cheeky, or if they can swing the ball. But if they show me that they're going to kick here, I'm going to put pods here. I'm going to put a pod here, probably 2, and we're going to prioritize and we're going to shift accordingly. Usually, again, I like to spread it. So I would start if I don't have the ability to one-man. Man, this is really bad. If I don't have the ability to one-player lift, I'm usually going to go 4 across the front. And 3 to the back. Okay, and then as soon as they walk up and they're 5-1, okay, the whole thing just shifts over to that side. They're showing me they're probably kicking to the side with 5, so the whole thing just shifts over. So I would, in a lot of cases, we go with just spread it out, and then as they walk up, we see what they want to do, and we shift immediately in relation to that. Does that make sense? If you can work towards having players who can, especially if they're going to show you where they're going to kick, and you've got, even if it's just 2 players, one really good jumper, one really good lifter, who can actually track, time a lift, and go up. Like, all right, cool, you're going to kick right there, I'm going to put my pod right there, and we're going to win every line out. Or we're going to win every restart. Really good point. Yeah, I completely just talked about kicking off versus receiving. I would say, like, a lot of teams are going to show you, and a lot of teams still do the, like, hey, we're probably going to kick here because there's 4, 5, 6 players on this side of the kicker. Cool, well then let's prioritize our receive right there and securing that ball. Personally, I would rather spread. A little better now. Okay, so if we can't execute a one-player lift, I'm gonna fill gaps. Okay, and so for me personally, if I'm kicking this off, I'm gonna go 3 and 3. I'm gonna have an aerial person on each edge, and I'm gonna look. And if you're in that, we're probably going to pick up who's my best aerial person and who is your weak link. Unathletic, shorter, I don't know, maybe these surprises. Hopefully we've watched you play before and we know what your weak link is. I'm just going to target you and I'm going to send my 6'4" dude and he's going to win the ball. My kicker's going to put it up, it's contestable. Another one, which always shocks me, is that like teams just don't fill the space with their kick receive. So like they'll just be lazy. Maybe they're like this, okay? All right, cool. If my kicker can put the ball, that's why drop kicking is so important. If I got a good decision maker who can put the ball where they want, I look up, hey, there's a little gap there, okay? I like to have a call like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or some variation of that, because I'll wide, intermediate width, straight in front of me, intermediate width, wide. And so I can give you a signal, I can give you a verbal call, and if I can put that ball there, I mean, I'm gonna have my good kicker just put this ball right here. And maybe this inside player, the second one in here, they're just gonna win the race for the ball. Like little dink kicks are super overrated. If you don't have a player who can put that high contestable ball up, if you could just got a player who's functional and they can look up and see, oh, they're not there, cool, I'm just gonna put it and we're gonna win that little race. Like little dinky kicks, I think are really underrated. Or a lot of times teams just completely ignore the middle of the field. You know, they leave this big thing, and so if my kicker, you know, sometimes the kicker can kick it and win the race to 11 meters, all right? Or he's got this one support player right here who says, yep, dink, straight ahead, or, you know, A, B, C, D, E, okay, all right, we'll go, okay, C ball. A 10.5 meter kick right in front of me, my buddy wins the race, cool, we just scored, and now we got the ball again. So just being able, that goes back to that basic awareness thing. Having players who are good enough to just be like, in a line out, in any situation, just like, oh, they're not there. Cool, that's where the ball should go. All right, they're potting the front, let's just throw it over the top. All right, they're not marking the front, let's just have our front lifter just turn around and we throw it 5 meters. Like just that basic awareness of what are they giving us, that right there will fix a lot of stuff. Or it's really easy. A lot of teams will just give you easy attacking opportunities due to lack of awareness. And if you have a higher rugby IQ and a more like keyed in, aware team, you'll probably be really successful. Anything else? Yep.
You talked about set pieces being disruptive. It's not your foot. What are some specific tactics, legal, like specific to the scrum, especially?
I mean, for one, especially at lower levels, most referees have no idea what's going on in the scrum. Because a lot of them are backs. Legal tactics, do I have a big, strong player? I'm probably going to put them at, they can get low, I'm going to put them at tight head and I'm going to have them attack their hooker. I might have my tight head, so they're usually going to put it at their loose head side. So a lot of times, if you can get a tight head who can win that physical matchup and they can strike at the ball even, that's another good one. Working binding, you know? If your loose head can just get a really long bind and win the set and get like way into their tight head's ribs, like, and is lower, it's just gonna go back. Small hookers, I really like small hookers, especially in sevens, because they're able, like the shorter body, like some of them can really, like they can kind of hang there and go get that ball. But I would tell you, just winning physical matchups, being lower, and then if it's are you talking specifically defensively?
Yeah, defensively. It's like you can't
Make a mess of it. Honestly, what's the worst case that could happen? They call you for a penalty in your back 10, and you basically where you started anyways. So getting one scrum penalty, okay, don't do it. Don't give up a stupid try, soft try right before half. Don't lose a game because you committed a penalty in the last minute. But, I mean, I would shade towards being really aggressive at that defensive scrum. Because I want to make a mess of your ball. I maybe want to steal it, but specifics, put your strong kid who can actually get low at tight head and have them go attack their opposite. And have your loose head, like, understand that, yeah, you're supposed, the law says drive straight, but you usually don't get called for boring in if you're at a 15-degree angle. Well, let's try 20-degree angle. Okay? And again, a lot of referees just aren't looking for that. Binds, there's a lot of things you can do. Blocking the opposition's binds is another really good one. Nope, I want the bind. It's little, it's subtle, you don't even see it, but nope. I just shot and now I want the bind. Now my hand is exactly where I want it. Now I've got leverage. Now it's easy for me to manipulate you and drive you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
Probably.
All right. Any other questions? I got one other attacking situation that I think is underutilized. So let's say the ball has just gone to the sideline. Man, this is terrible. So, ball goes to sideline. We've got a rucker. One of these will work, sort of. Okay, so ball carrier, rucker, scrum half. All right, so in defense, what we've got tackler, who maybe they're stuck in the ruck. Maybe they had good ground fitness. They didn't get stuck. They got right up. They defend the post. Most defenses at this situation, they're going to start looking. They're going to start expecting you to swing the ball, and they're going to shade towards this. So in this situation, a lot of times the next defender is going to be right here. Some teams, personally, in loose play, I want one player at the post defense. I'm right behind the ruck, and I can cover both sides. All right. If I got to waste two defenders, one on either side of the ruck, we're under-resourced in a big sort of way somewhere. All right. Now the next defender is probably on our first receiver. All right. So as soon as this pass goes, the defense is probably again anticipating. Oh, they're gonna look to swing it wide. Because a lot of teams we just run basic hands. They're gonna go from sideline to sideline. We get it to the first receiver. The door is the ruck. I get it here. I go like this because it plays into. I go a hard dummy and look, and then I come right back here and we got a 4-on-2. As long as these players have work rate and they get back behind the ball and then they're immediately threats, it's the easiest play in rugby. It's one pass and there's almost always an overlap back to that short side. Almost always an overlap. I just see it underutilized over and over again. If we can be aware, we've got a ruck, they expect us to go wide again, so we've gone wide, we've worked it to the sideline. Their default is we're going to go wide again. So, yeah, we make that first pass to the first receiver, and the first receiver sells it a little bit, boom, 4-on-2 to the short side. It's there constantly. If you can get players who are aware of that, and you can get these players that immediately are on their feet, retreat, and engage as far as an attacking option, you'll generate a lot of overlaps. Plus, it's easier than 4 passes working it back to your winger. It's one pass and a little deception, and now it's little short pop passes instead of long spin passes at pace. So just an underutilized thing that maybe it'll help you out. Anything else? Cool, thanks, appreciate y'all. If you want this slideshow, email me. I will send it to you. All right. It is a Google Slides thing. It'll come as a link. Send it to you. If any were at the first one you want it, same thing. You email me. You say, hey, like that. Can I get your slideshow? I'll send it to you straight away. And also, don't forget, play towards your personnel. Make sure we're safe. Make sure we have fun. But you gotta, gallop with the horses you got.